when looking at the Full Metal Alchemist and how we view science today and the attitude towards it, I think it's very interesting. Um, when you are directly comparing or even just viewing the parallels that we have currently with today in AI and what we're doing with it and the capacity it has and things it can do, and with how they handled alchemy and their views towards alchemy. Alphonse and Edward started off with alchemy with the hope to bring back their mother, even though they created this big taboo, trying to resurrect her and losing part of themselves in this resurrection. They did all of that, running towards it. They still knew there was so much good and so much potential with it. And you can see as they go throughout the story how they're trying to just show that it's okay and they wanted to make the best of it. And they're trying to stop the people who are using it in harmful and very dangerous ways, as you see throughout this thing. Alchemy is a circle, so if you want something, you have to give something. And I think that's very apt for how we deal with so much today. Like there's so much that goes into it to create it. And so for us to be able to have that technology and resource, somebody somewhere had to put in all of that blood, sweat, tears, and effort into that technology to get back what we have now, especially with AI. When we look at AI, what all was given into AI in order to create what it has now. It's just a very interesting thing to think about when it comes to the give and take of it. As any science and anything, there's like the harm that comes from alchemy. It is used in war and it's destruction and it hurts people. But you also see it over time and time again, helping people, saving lives, helping with medicine, benefiting day-to-day things. So there is that balance between science, but also alchemy itself. Not everybody loves alchemy. There's plenty of people that think that there should be absolutely no alchemist because if one alchemist is there, that means there's going to be an abundance of harm, which I think can be the same thing now with people when they're saying AI. AI should not be something that we use. We shouldn't touch it because the only thing it's going to do is, go out of control and there'll be, machines and technology thinking on its own one day and we're not going to be involved with any of it and it's going to become to be the end of us all. So there are very interesting views with parallels between those two. What is the cost of the advancement of science or alchemy or AI is so true in anything, and the cost with the alchemy is if you go too far, you lose something. It will take that something from you because alchemy is an equal exchange. So if you take something, you must give something. It is that equal balance. So you go too far, you create a taboo, you push the boundaries, then there are people who lost their eyesight, they lost organs, they lost their entire body because that's what they gave up. And in return, by the end of it, in order to retrieve their bodies, Edward had to give up something of equal value, and each person would be different. So, what of equal value would you give for a life? And he himself gave up his ability to use alchemy because that was all he was. That was his an entire hope and ambition was to continue. He was the best take alchemist at the youngest age, doing the best things, and he gave all of that up in order to bring back his brother and as well as his missing limbs. So that equal and opposite exchange. So what are we doing today with it? What is our cost advancement? What are we losing when we start to use AI more and more and we rely on this more and more with our technology? Are we going to lose our humanity because we're now relying and assuming that everything is made, or are we going to lose the human spirit that is in so much art and technology and science, because all of that is imbued with whoever created it. Their essence is in part of that because without them, that product, that technology and science would not be where it is now because each of us was able to put in our own unique thing when we create something. And the same can be said for science and AI. Where would it be without that? I think kind of on the scary end of looking at science, there's a philosopher's stone that amplifies and creates eternal life and amplifies power, but it's created through a multitude of person's souls are trapped in this small thing, this small gem. So the cost for creating ultimate power and eternal life is multiple people, and it's an almost eerie reflection on how AI in some aspects has been created. They have used multiple people's blood, sweat, and tears to create it as a base. And then what have they fed into it to create what it is now, this engine? They've used so many people's, intellectual properties with or without permission. It has been fed into this one system to be able to create its own. It's very eerie on how it's reflected, even though it's not necessarily created in the same time period, but how science itself, even as it evolves, can be seen reflecting the same thing. Alchemy, I'm sure they thought the same thing when we started, 15, 20 years ago, with different scientific experiments and different ways of thought. And each new wave of science that we will see from here until forever will have the same weight, I think, coming from society, is the fear of the danger, the hope and anticipation of the help, but at the same time, where is too far? And that's something that each generation is going to have to face and decide on their own.